should know, very bilingual. Blow shit out the frame, aim at the stack quo.
Peace, human family, planet Earth. How you doing? I am your host. Welcome to Super Heru Radio. I'm your host. I share it with kids, along with all of you, all of my co-hosts, Alina, the Empress of 10,000 years. And
you can hear how sick he is.
Yeah, I got my annual yearly winter cold that always seems to come around January.
You've been getting two a year now, I think.
No?
Not
true.
Well, in a good way, like when it's cold and when it's a little chilly. I'm just,
My point is, I'm not in the best of verbal communication and energy yet. You know what I mean? I want to come through and let everybody know that today is a great day for people to actualize any unresolved issues with the Father, based upon the fact that Saturn goes direct tomorrow. The moon trines Saturn tomorrow. So any endeavors that were started in a premise of working towards something that's taken a long time to come into existence, tomorrow is a good day to initiate that or see some of the fruitions of that coming into being. There are a lot of great things going down, a lot of great work that's being put out there and is being done by real nobles. And because we have been around and inundated with so many imposters to the throne, that we are literally almost stuck in terms of trying to understand who and what is the premise of reality when it comes to our ascension and national protocol, and what actually can or not happen with that. Meaning that the more and so much fake shit has been going on in our community for so long, and when I say our community, I'm talking about our community as the pseudo or quote-unquote conscious, as well as the greater, let's say, autochthonous, indigenous American population, and then further on now to everybody else, all of the rest of the humans and the rest of the people that's coming out doing whatever. So we have been so lambasted with so much erroneous and useless information that was really put out there to obfuscate what is going on, that we are now in a time, like I said, after December 21st, where any historical aspect that you are trying to initiate becomes reality based upon the fact that history itself is anew. And we know who the Anu people were and are. So when we speak on that, this next 25,000-year cycle has already begun. And yet people are using the same argument, the same lame duck sessions that don't lead to anything else. Every 3 months, these people are reaching the end of their financial situation. And the prophet said that they would do, that this will happen to them. Because they did not want to respect the mandate of 1928, they are boxed in. All of the agreements that they made after that has been backwards agreements to try to get them out of something that is already gone. So, of course, they'll make an African-American president. But when we really look at what the term African-American means, it doesn't necessarily mean what we even think. It means something totally different. Let's look. Let's see what the Oxford Dictionary says about African-American real quick. And then you tell me if that's you. Or if that's even this dude. African-American, noun, an American of African descent, and especially of black African descent. A black American of African ancestry. What? I thought blacks were Africans, and what this also means now is you're saying that black Africans are also Americans. But you told me that these people that's call themselves African Americans came from Africa. Let's go a little further. Then it says, an American whose ancestors were born in Africa. Of all the black people I know in America, there's very rare few that I know coming up or growing up in the hood who had actual relatives that they could actually go back to America. The niggas I was growing up in the hood wasn't. That is not to say that there weren't Africans growing up in the hood. Of course not. But they weren't my initiatory peer group because they were still in the social circles of their own people. So I wouldn't know. And none of these Africans that I would walk by on Flatbush Avenue or, Notion Avenue, that whole clique coming up, none of them Africans over there was ever telling me about my history and my culture and none of that. But, again, the usage note, the Oxford English Dictionary contains evidence of the use of black with reference to African peoples as early as 1400. And certainly the word has been in wide use in a racial and ethnic context ever since. However, it was not until the late 1960s that black gained a present status in the self-chosen ethnium, A-E-T-H-N-O-Y-M, ethnium. An ethnium with strong connotations of racial pride, replacing the then current Negro among blacks and non-blacks. Ethnonym. It's ethnonym. It's like synonym, but it's like an ethnic variation. It's like ethnic synonym, ethnic plural. Right, ethnonym. The appeal of this term is obvious, alluding that it does not. That's not the point I'm going to say.
But unlike what happened in the generation earlier, African American came at a time of relative.
Yeah, let me go back one before that, though. The difference may well lie in the fact that the campaign for African American came at a time of relative social and political stability. Now, I told you that after the last consul closed, when the Kingdom of Morocco was established, and El Ghawi Pasha was dethroned and was replaced by his Arabic pseudo-Mamluk son on the Arabic side of the Moorish side of it all, we had it from 1956 to 1960 to get our diplomatic credentials straight. Between 1956 and 1960, we have the birth pains of the Civil Rights Movement that basically said that any consuls that were not, any Moors that were not basically in their right consuls by that time would fall under the jurisdictions of the criminal courts under the civil rights statutes. So why you think civil rights was pumped so hard in the hood by all of these other dudes who came in? You understand? Like you're talking about liberation. We were talking about people who were coming to liberate a people, but they themselves were bound by secret obligations that put them into liege subjectship with the same beast that denationalized everybody. So within the parameters of what they could do, they did what they could, but they couldn't do as much as they may have wanted to, just due to the fact that they were still bound by these old agreements based upon them switching sides ancestrally back in the day, going from the state side to the state of side just to be able to get money and disenfranchise the original people that was already here. Therefore, an African American, right, was an American of African descent. But if we were to categorize these people historically, then we would be calling them the prisoners of war that came over on the good ship Jesus in 1555 after they got deposed out of the war between the Songhai Empire and what will become the Moroccan Empire that would go into the Moroccan state that would go into the Moroccan kingdom under Mullah Ismail. Right? So let's think about it. Black is sometimes capitalized in a racial sense. It's still the same definition, especially in the early African American press. Through the lowercase form, it's still widely used through authors of all races. The capitalization of black raises ancillary problems. ancillary problems that still have not been resolved. You see what I'm saying? And these problems are, how do you deal with the African American and what the African American really is. I hope you see where we're going with this. Where we're going with this is the fact that, okay, first let's go, that's one definition. Let's look at another definition. I'm sorry, babe. It was unraveling. I didn't know what to do. A person born on the continent of Africa who became a naturalized citizen of the United States. Now, right there, I'm going to show you how they put the spell on you and put you in a trick bag by not really reading what you're reading. They already told you. A person born on the continent of Africa who becomes a naturalized citizen of the United States. The naturalization system of the United States, which one? Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the one from 1786 to 1787? Are you talking about the one that happened all of those years later during the time of the Civil War with Reconstruction, where everybody that was in state that they was in prior to the Civil War got flipped after the Civil War through the Reconstruction when they threw out all of the maps? They literally threw out all of the maps that were associated with your government or put them into vaults or whatever and filed it under national security.
They said it born in Africa becomes naturalized, not nationalized.
Right, who becomes naturalized.
When I read it, I see naturalized.
Right.
When I read it, it says naturalized, but I see and read it as, oh, he's part of the nation of the United States of America.
Right.
But that's not what it says.
No.
It says that you're African American if you're born in Africa and become naturalized here in the United States of America. But what's the difference between naturalized and nationalized?
Now, what's it
what
predicated on?
Right.
Excellent. That's an excellent question. But then look what it's predicated on. It's also predicated on what you perceive Africa is, or where Africa really is, or what Africa really represents.
Somebody could think Africa just exists in that hemisphere where Africa is, or some people could think that it exists here, based on the Peary's Rays map, based on all the other.
Okay, see, all them maps you talking about locked up. Pope sitting on that.
Yeah, but we still know the information says that everything was connected.
Right.
So if everything was connected at one point and Africa was the civilization of all creation, then Africa has to be here because things were created here as well as in that hemisphere.
Well,
instead of thinking of it as a separation, thinking of it as a whole.
Okay, before we get into where Africa was, let's see what an African is. Right? An African is an individual whose recent ancestry, in brackets, in the past 50 years, is from the continent of Africa, in contrast with African American. Now look at that. They are saying that an African is an individual whose recent ancestry, meaning within the past 50 years, is from the continent of Africa, in contrast with African Americans, because the African American is a person born on the continent of Africa who becomes a naturalized citizen in America. So the African is part of the chattel thing that got brought back into being through the 13th Amendment. But the organic 13th Amendment, of which they made the movie Lincoln for, and of which they destroyed it, when you watch the movie, there's a character played by Tommy Lee Jones named Thaddeus Stevens, who is really going out with Lydia Smith Hamilton, the great cousin of Alexander Hamilton, the founder of the Coast Guard, the founder of the first Department of Treasury. Department of Treasury now created a situation where he tells you that they go with the 13th Amendment, even though he didn't like Lincoln, was that he was going to force the rebellion states into positions in which Negroes would be equal with white people. You hear what I said? You say he wanted to make a situation where Negroes was going to be eventually equal with white people. But a Negro is not the original inhabitant of the land. Therefore, he was trying to make one fiction synonymous with another fiction. Therefore, Lincoln had to come with the real section in the organic 13th Amendment to get it straight. And that's why they killed them. So check this African American designation out. Now, sometimes they have in dictionaries, they'll give you a phrase or a sentence that represents what this term means and how it's used in the vernacular. This term, again, African American now. The quote or the example they use to define or how it should be used is, while Tanisha thought she was African American, she was born right here in Lower Alabama. Telling you what? It said, while Tanisha thought she was African American, she was actually born right here in Lower Alabama. Meaning that the original Africans was right here in America, but they were not called Africans, even though this place was referred to as Africa at point. It was referred to by a lot of different things because the three states, the British, the French, and the Spanish, through the Spanish, were working to switch and dilute the Moorish nationalities amongst all of the different nations and states that were going to come after 1789, which were all the puppet states for all of the so-called amalgamated and tawny Moors for their so-called children or whatever to rock. That's why when you look at the movie Django, you'll see that as much as Carlton Candy or whatever his name was running the plantation, it was Stephen, a.k.a. Yakub, who was writing all the checks and putting him on the game. So what this means is there was a switch. Transfer of ownership. Once the masters realized that these Moors in the north was going to break them, some of them decided that they was going to fall under the jurisdiction and make their slaves the heads of their household while they would play the butler, the heirs or the advisors to the throne, a.k.a. the boule, advisors to the king, who would basically put him on the throne to imitate what was already going on which was the custom of the European people. And through the political marriages of the Dugdamaldia Empire and the Algonquin Empire, as well as the Camoantan, Olmec, Maya, Inca, Aztec empires. By the time you see movies like Apocalypto and all of that, those were the descendants of the people who had already got the original people out because they had already moved further north. So they weren't even in their original state because they had already moved on. So after the capitulation of Granada, you had all of these Moors that were now displaced. Some of those Moors pushed themselves further down and destroyed the Songhai Empire, which then pushed all of those Moors further down into the interior of Africa, which then Moors started to peep game and started using their own relationships with these devils, with these sort of quote-unquote Scottish Rite freed and made sons who were now doing the administrative work on behalf of these Moorish empires based upon them now bleeding or bleaching into them and then bleaching them out. So when you see the white man at the head of the cavalry in the movies and all the black people doing what he's saying, he whipping them and beating them, that's because he is the white boy that was descended from these Moors that sent him over there, you see what I'm saying, to do their bidding, to see how he would handle himself with himself and that thing. And so because all of these Moors started practicing this thing, this was then eventually adopted by the autochthonous Moors by us. But what we did was we created an irrevocable trust called the United States of America to administer what we didn't want to deal with them people while providing eternal prosperity for us and eternal protection in striving to create this more perfect union. But this place over here, whenever you see the pictures of the ancient American Indians, they always mad dark skin and they always don't have no clothes on because we were so free we didn't have to do any of that. We were not under the jurisdiction of the Sultan. So the Treaty of Morocco is really based upon what side of the treaty you really see yourself on as. Are you looking at it as yourself as a Moor from the perspective of under the jurisdiction of the then Sultan, who was then making an agreement with the Moors, that agreement was being beseeched through Washington? think about it. Whenever a business is about to go bankrupt and stuff, they start selling off the shares or whatever, those same people will then go and start up a whole other business. And their whole other business then becomes the new version of what was. And so when we speak of Africa, really we're speaking of a designation and a demarcation point. Because Africa represents the part of let's say, Morocco that's the farthest west. Just like I told you back in the Malian days, in the Malian map, anything west of Mali was Africa. So Northwest Africa, according to CMB, is North Central South America. So when you read the definition now of African American, it says a person that's born, right? Let me get back to it. We're talking about a person born on the continent of Africa who becomes a naturalized citizen of the United States of America. So in that, we're the three countries that's being listed: Africa, right? United States, right? America. 3 different countries. This represents the 3 different aspects of the denationalization process: getting you to get away from your God, then getting you to get away from your government, then getting you to get away from yourself. You see? This is why every 25 years, and other people, this is why every 25 years, black people call themselves something different. Whereas since 1922, Moors would call themselves Moors, whether wrong or right. But when you call yourself Moor, that's different than necessarily calling yourself Moorish American. You see? But a true Moor or a Tonkinist Moor is an American American. But that can only be those Moors that existed and prior to this so-called Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Therefore, there is a difference between what the Al-Moroccan Empire is and what the true temple or the true empire really is. Because our Moroccan Empire was a process of unification with those Moors that brought themselves and their slaves from across the water and involved us into their foreign wars. And then eventually we had to create a tax shelter called the federal government of the United States to be able to formally establish something, because we never needed to have a unified, codified system of laws, because we had always been on the side of the law. So we never had to fully, let's say, incorporate an army, because all of us were noble in the army. All of us were free. So free we didn't have to wear clothes. That didn't mean we were savage, though. It just meant that we were lawless. But today, when you read lawless, that means that one who is a savage. But back then, it didn't mean that. It meant that we were not subject to the laws of that time period or whatever sultan or whoever was there, because all of them people's ancestors came from us. So this, again, was and is the perpetual Garden of Eden. This is where everything was going down, because this was the side of the world that after the deluge, all of the Atlanteans, Lemurians, and Muians, which represented the true Moaeses, the descendants of the original 13 tribes of Shabazz that manifested out of the triple stage darkness, i.e. the Creator, the true Creator, going all the way back. So that means that of that stock is where you get the original stock that was participated in what eventually became the amalgamation process that we call the Yakubian experiment. That everybody wants to believe is science fiction, is some sort of fantasy and all of that, but all I see is evidence of it every day. I'm looking at things from the perspective of an Asiatic and not a human. Therefore, I'm not caught up in a lot of the human aspects of what this is, because the humans are the colored people. These are the made-over people. These are the people who don't know what nationality they are. And the people that help them do that are all of the luminaries that are given to you as positive black people on mainstream media today. All of them are under the same jurisdiction of the same pseudo-orders that was set up to keep you perpetually out of it. So you're talking about a whole industry of thieving. So to have so much ego to think that you could go up in a cipher like that and change it or make it adapt to you and not being in your proper person is erroneous. That's why all these people get ate up. That's why no matter how much knowledge they kick and all of that, you wait, give it time. Look what they did to Yassine Bey. Look what they did, what's going on with Jay Electronica. They got him wrapped up with this whole thing. And you got Moors really going in about how that's just another capitulation. That's just another, aspect of how, we moving up. And like, all that would be cool if that was actually a pure-blooded Rothschild, but that's not even that. That was to stop him from coming up because they put him under their Dark Lord, i.e. the Emperor, a.k.a. Jay-Z. So now he, who is, again, a Prince Hall, 32nd degree, Scottish Rite, OAO Mason, has already got him locked deep. He can't really go no further with that. So he got to involve in that. How you going to be here coming from the roof, but then going over there to what? Extend the empire? How can you extend the empire when you haven't even really maybe established yourself with the Secretary of State as to who and what you are supposed to be? So if you don't do that, this is where the terms mooring comes in. Everybody is a free port. Everybody's a ship. Everybody's just out here just floating on the sea of life, like driftwood and all of that. And in the storm, driftwood can hurt you, so you got to be able to practice certain things. You got to be able to know when you can have moorage, which is the sum due by law or the usage for mooring or fastening of ships to a tree, post, at the shore or wharf, or to a wharf, right? Don't your flag have a tree on it? You got to moor your ship to the tree to establish moorage. Like you have mortgage, which is a debt pledge. Moorage is a natural pledge of the sea and the land. That's natural. Because the tree is not charging you money to tie your boat to it. You see? Just like the water is not charging you money to float on it. So in a natural harmony, that's a perpetual contract that's bound by the rope that's mooring you to the land. You see? So once your mortgage is due, again, that's the sum due by law or usage, right? Don't they say in House Joint Resolution 75, you have the right in usage of to add A and L to your name? That's mooring. That's creating a moorage for you. You understand? This is where the term marriage comes from. Through the tie that binds, the ring that rules them all. Right? The process of that, the status of that is then mooring. Right? Which in maritime law is anchoring and making the fast shore or dock. You see? That's different. You see? Because now you're using the term dock, right? Because now this is maritime thing. This is the jurisdiction now of the Al-Moroccan Empire as opposed to the jurisdiction of the Moor. The Moor has moorage, you see? The Al-Moroccan Empire, we were the ones that were into mooring, which was traveling and anchoring and making fast, right, to a board or dock. Too fast to the shore or the dock. The securing or confining of a vessel in particular station. Don't they call the place that they lock you up a police station, right? As by the cables, right, and the anchors, right? That's the gold chain. Then how many rappers you see with anchors around their neck? Gold chain. And by the chain, run to the wharf. You see? That's the jail or the prison. A vessel is moored in safety within the meaning of a policy of marine insurances. This is the bond. When she, see, a lot. When she, the ship, a lot, right, is moored to the wharf or dock, the doctor, the wharf, the ward that you were born in. You see? Because you are basically like a ship. You're basically like a ship that's just in the water, floating around, and it came upon this frigate that happened to be run by the British, and they want to kind of tool you up. So they tow you back into the war and now put their flag on you. That's what these people have done, based upon the fact that this is what the Barbary Moors had put in play for the Turks and them to come out and eventually do. And then when the Turks fell, they fell. So if you want to really do the analysis of the course of your empire, you ain't never heard this from nobody, but if you want to really look at the course of empire, it was the American Autochtons, the original from the creation. Then it was the Almoravian Empire. Then it was the Barbary States. Then it was the Mystic Turks. Then it was the British Empire. Then it was it was the United States working for America. So when the American Autochtons moved out, then the Almoravians moved up. Then when they moved out, then the Barbary States took over. Then when the Barbary States went out, the Mystic Turks, the Mystic Osmanali Turks. Then after the Turks was out, then the British came up. Then after the British came up, the United States came up. See what I'm saying? China, Russia, these are all parts of the old empire, the old world, going back to a cross between the Mystic Turks and the Almoravians. That's why they both got the red flag. That's why they got so much money. Because both of them absorbed the spoils of the ruling class of the Moors of Japan under the emperor. But Japan had to fall because they dishonored their Bushido class by murdering their own nobles, their own Moors. Get the movie The Last Samurai to see that. Where they murdered all the Moors after they had taken the country over and put it back under the jurisdiction of the pseudo-United States in stewardship, which would eventually lead to the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, however many hundred years later. You see? So a Morris, which is a Moor, in Old Scotch law, which is Scottish law, is a mayor. Mayor, M-A-I-R-E. A mayor is also a mayor, M-A-Y-O-R. But it is also a mare, M-A-R-E, which is a horse, which is a buck. So this was the different ways that they were able to use the language to identify Moors, or autochthonous Moors specifically, American Americans, as property. A Morris, or Moor, in Old Scotch law, is a mayor, an officer, or executor of summons. Meaning you summon people. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be summoning them to what they're supposed to say and do before the great emperor, the great God Allah. Otherwise called the, what is that? Hold on. The Provo Regis, right? So all of the different versions of Moor represent all of the different versions of the Moors that existed in the countries, that in the empires and dominions that eventually became part of it. But you got to know what side of the map and who's doing what and where you was at in the process of that, so that way you don't fall under the wrong classification of that by misnomer. I'm going to show you why. In 1816, U.S. Army Colonel Duncan Clinch's report on the Black Fort, or Fort Negro, July 29, 1816, Washington War Records Office. The National Archives claimed that at the time he entered the fort, the two flags were flying, the English Jack, or the British flag, and the red flag that belonged to the Negroes, or the Moors, as they are sometimes called. Because the practice was to not call us by our original names. You see what I'm saying? That was the custom, to call us anything else but what our names really meant and were. This is from a guy named General Wilson, where he's discussing the colonies and how they want to wrestle the money from us. Peep this. We have no right over the Indians, whether within or without out the real and pretended limits of any colony. They will not allow themselves to be classed according with the bounds of colonies. You see that? How you going to force me to be a citizen of your colony and I'm the one that allows your colony to exist, regardless of what color you are, regardless of whether you're my cousin or not? Notice in Wilson's speech that he states the Indians know the striking benefits of Confederation. They have an example of it in the Union of the Six Nations. This idea is what gave birth to them forming the Articles of Confederation, in which they mimic the Union of the Six Nations. You see? They patterned their entire government after you and how you ran it, and then tried to force you to become a citizen of it to take away the ability for you to ever put them back in correction if they decided to turn against you. Now look at what Chase states. He says, let's move the word white should be inserted in the 11th article. Talking about the Constitution. White should be inserted into the 11th article. The Negroes are wealth. So we take the Moor, switch that for Negro. Negro represents mayor, or we take the aspect that the term Moor means mayor, but we're going to spell mayor instead of mayor, like it's supposed to be spelled in Old Latin, meaning Lord, M-A-I-E. M-A-I-R-E, we're going to spell it M-A-R-E, which then is going to allow them to be listed as cattle. See? The Negroes are wealth. Numbers are not certain enough to rule. Numbers are not certain in the rule of wealth. It is the best rule we can lay down. Negroes, a species of property, a personal estate. You see? Negroes as a species of property, meaning niggers, meaning American Indians, meaning Al-Moroccan, true American, Al-Moroccans of the original Al-Moroccan Empire that gave birth to all the other people based upon them being the ancient Canaanites and all of that. So, therefore, the Six Nations and Articles of Federation and all that was really just built up to be able to establish something to interface with people on a foreign level. It wasn't supposed to be dealing. We weren't supposed to be dealing with that in domestic. That's why the state is not supposed to be harassing you when you out here doing God's work, which is reminding the people that they may be Asiatics. Whether they want to proclaim that or not, then it's on them. But it's not your job to convince people of what they should be and what they shouldn't be. If they want to be slaves, that may be because ancestrally that's what they were. Part of the side of the empire that chose to amalgamate with the so-called Caucasian that only manifested on the planet 250,000 years ago. But prior to that, there's no evidence of them here. So how can these people tell me how old I am or who or what I am? We predate them. The relationships they said between Morocco and the Rif and the great Sultan of Morocco and the Rif pirates, meaning Rif was one of the areas in which they was taking mad money and enslaving mad white people and eventually started enslaving African prisoners of war. They was like, yo, the emperor's our man and all that, and we do, you know what I mean, we'll come to his aid if he needs us for anything, but we kind of do us. And the French king, not the French, the Belgian king was mad because they kept seizing his ships with all of the white people he was selling. So he went to the emperor and asked the emperor to tell them to stop. But he don't really control them because the emperor to them is the figure mental of the divine essence of what they were as Moors, meaning officers and the people who could travel the world and exact the laws and the judges on whatever community or society they did because they were the ones that helped set it up. But because they took that for granted and lost their noble nature, that all evolved. So from the Al-Moroccan Empire, we get the Barbary states, you see? And then from the Barbary states, we then get the United States of America, which basically inherited that based upon the last Barbary pirate falling out of the scene with Roosevelt. Excuse me, with Teddy Roosevelt. Again, a Freemason. Our landmark is us. So don't let anybody fool you out there in the universe. Don't let anybody fool you and make you think that, excuse me, if you're not in the Moorish Science Temple, like a card-carrying member of a temple, that you're not in the Moorish Science Temple. That's not true. The Bible said the kingdom of God is within, and the temple is in the soul of man. The true temple lies in the soul of man, so saith the Lord. That's why Noble Jolly told you, Moors, don't throw your Bibles away yet. I'm going to have you use them in the future. This is going to be the spell book that you bind everybody on the planet with. That's why it's everybody's book now. That's why C. Freeman L., blessed the dead, died working on the translation into the astrology aspect. That's why a lot of the stuff that's happening and a lot of niggas is going to start to realize, and it's going to start to shock a lot of people, because the simplicity of what we're talking about is very direct. And therefore, there's no way that these people can hide. This is why diplomacy is so important when it comes to dealing with people in a proper person. But 90% of the Moors you meet that saying in a proper person ain't. Because you are the Moorish Science Temple in America, of America, for America. You are the more perfect union. You got to know the difference between you being a Moor and you being a Moorish American. And then of that being Asiatic as a race of people, which is why you're so disdained. Which is why you're so disdained, and which is why you're in such a quandary when it comes to these people trying to brutalize you, because they don't want you to figure it out, but they can't stop you from figuring it out. Matter of fact, they're supposed to help you figure it out, but they can't come out and tell you. So the ones that's already sold out is the ones that are already cashed in. So this is where you could be a Freeway or a Meek Mill and come from these Muslim families and then still rock Ice and Jesus chains and all of this, and Stally videos and Rick Ross and all of that. You're straight Muslim, but you don't represent being a Christian, which is blasphemy, which is dishonoring your ancestors. Because guess what? None of our ancestors was Christian like that. The part of them that was Christian was not Christian. It was Coptic. It was Coptic, which is Axumite. Axumite is a Mexican. Axum is a Mexican. So when the white man called people the Axis powers, or the axis of evil, he's talking about the ones that's going against the original Axumites. Look up King Ellisban, Elessaban. There's a connection between the Sabaean thing and us over here. There's a connection with all of this stuff, but it goes the opposite direction. It rises right back up where you are. That's why what they say, the journey of a lifetime begins with one step, because the step that you got to take is the first step, which is declaration that you are a living being made soul in the image of the Most High Creator. If you don't do that, then you agreeing that you everything lower than what they say. So if you don't walk around in your proper person, in your proper garb, no matter how extravagant you want it to be. Blessed the dead Prince Uriel was always decked out. Any picture I've seen of him, he had his talents and everything working, but he didn't get this great support that he was supposed to get, because he was really doing the work. And they want to get you hyped up in the image, in the hype aspect of it. They're not going to teach you how to be what you really are. So there's different levels of this and everything else. It was the adepts, and all of us come out of the schools of the original five on the left, two on the right, or whatever. His Daddy Grace, Father Divine, Elijah Muhammad, CMB. All of the movements that we in right now basically come out of what these men, including the whole Christian ones and all of that. Like thinking, when you research Father Divine movement, how do you think he was able to get women, white women, to marry these black men? This is why you got all these people now, all these white celebrities now that's getting all these black babies. A lot of them came out of the Father Divine Church. That's why Scientology and all that shit came out, to get the white people away from that. How was he able to get all the members of his church tax-exempt status when they was Negroes and white women? How was he able to do that? And Noble Joe Ali. These were the great adepts of the Asiatic preparation system that was put in our species mind pattern. This is the Neo that was brought forth every so odd generation to bring forth. This is the exceptional nigga that Calvin Candy was talking about in Django. This is the one nigga in 100 that remembers who the fuck he is and can actually live in that capacity, while the rest of these niggas watch him be what he's supposed to and always has been, my master. There's a difference between understanding what we want to be and what we are based on where we are. But to know where we are, we have to understand how the ship and what ship moves. So there is no real jurisdiction for the Moorish ship. And the secret is everybody knows that. But the secret is they know that they have scattered the breadcrumbs throughout the forest, so nobody, Hansel and Gretel, won't be able to find their way out of it. And that has become the great national treasure or the great secret. But there really is no secret, because these adepts set within us genetically what we are. So even though our ancestors, a lot of them sold out, a lot of them got broke, a lot of them got killed, a lot of them got exiled, a lot of them got buried, forgotten, walked out of this reality, went into the inner earth, whatever they did, it still did not change the fact that even if it was 1,000 years, but nobody even uttered the word more, on the 1,001 year that the first nigga said it again, it opened up the portal for us all to figure this shit out. Because we are each other in person. So as subjects of the emperor. See, that's the other thing. Moors and niggas don't like being subordinate to nothing, because we came up 5% and all this other type of shit. I can call, and this is just my opinion. I'm not saying that anybody needs to do this. This is just how I roll. I can bow to the fact that of all the historical figures that I've studied in my short life, this dude at CMB was the only niggas that kept it so real that they didn't really ask for nothing from the people. They gave them everything. And they had people around them that was helping them do it and not hating. So Marcus Garvey would put out something against His Majesty, because His Majesty Selassie and His Majesty, the First League of Nations, was the situation in which Noble Joe Ali was handed over the whole thing on America. And so that was to establish what would be the real League of Nations, which would be bring everybody back into the family of nations, which would then reestablish everything. So he was going to do that, and then Marcus Garvey was going to provide the army.
He gave the people everything and didn't expect anything in return. What do you mean? He didn't ask for anything in return, or things were just given to him in his princely status that he was taken care of? Like, what do you mean? When you say that, I sometimes think that people also hear it as, oh, that's such a good thing, and you're aligning yourself with that energy of giving so much, even in this example of, giving, and not having anything in return.
But what he had in return is us today. He said it would take 50 to 60 years for us to figure out what he really left us. And what he really left us was who, what, where, how, why, and when we are, and what we could do to retain that and go back to that.
And that is why I thank you for the meditation this evening, because looking at your eyes and seeing how much you give, we don't always acknowledge and appreciate those that are of service. And in being of service, we also ask for reciprocity and for, we are getting that.
That's why you say thank you more, please.
Right, exactly. But in that, I want to wrap it up tonight. We're going to get off an hour early. I want you to get a little bit of rest. And unless he enjoys what he does so much that I know he can do it, but that doesn't mean that he should do it tonight. So with that, to be strong, seeing as how he's prepared so much information for this month's course, I ask that everybody that's interested in the foreign policy course to please give us a call or to email us at houseofel, @hotmail.com. And the people that are in class, we've finished week 1 so far, and it's been great. I want to acknowledge and thank Aseer for gathering as many breadcrumbs and for attracting the energy that allows us to do such. And without you guys, we wouldn't be where we are. So I also want to give thanks for the $5 donations and the $2 contributions. Every little bit helps. And to show this living ancestor appreciation, please don't hesitate to do it, even if you never have. It really means a lot to us, and it helps us in more ways than one. So please, all donations can be sent to Duke of Tears. That's DUKEOF as in Frank, T as in Tom, IERS @gmail.com. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that tunes in consistently, because this is not a job but a joy. And in being a joy, I appreciate all the energy and everybody that has been. Just a pleasure to be around this lifetime. Give thanks.
That's peace. So, to put a bow in it, it's really about how you're going to navigate in these new times of this 26,000-year cycle that has already begun, that is shaping up to be a truly Moorish cycle, which a lot of people think it's a joke, but when the trumpet sounds and the Asiatics come into their full existence, the white man can tell you, and the white man has told you, that it will be over, utterly over for him and anybody else. And his punishment, according to one of the great adepts, CFA, said that his complexion will be wiped from the planet and he would no longer exist. So the same way you see paintings back in the days of white people with little white black babies under them, it's the same thing going on today. This is the breeding process. This is the breeding process of the Holy Roman Emperors trying to breed back into the Algonquins as they come in. So don't let them in, man. Those people that want to holler at me about doing this shit for real, holler at me, houseofel @hotmail.com. But really think about it, because it's not for everybody. Moorish science is not for everybody. It's for everybody who wants it. And to want it, you got to follow the steps that was laid by the ancestors to put you back, to repatriate yourself back to Morocco. Or going back to Morocco, going back to the East is going to basically send you back to the South, and the South is going to bring you back to the West, and the West is going to bring you back to the North, and it's going to be boxed right back in. You're going to start off where you came. So when you read The Alchemist, what you're supposed to be doing is substituting the name of the alchemist for you. And when you read that story, you're supposed to be going back through the eye and needle from which you came, through the good news and the good message given unto you by the elves, the angels, Gabriel, Michael, Abadaniel, Uriel, bless the dead, Uriel's back, C. Freeman L. Those are the real Moors doing the work. So like I said, I want everybody tonight to really think about what I'm saying. And next Monday we'll build. Anybody will holler at me for individual classes, private sessions, whatever, we can work that out too. And, get it consolidated in a manner that's actually see something from it. But again, it take being in honor. So any bullshit little contracts and things that you got that's out there that's tying you up and all of that, get all that shit straight, man. So that way you can enter into shit unfettered and unweighted down by any, situation. You know, so please check out www.darkskull418.com. It's a great book, and it's a great guide for, you know, story about what we're talking about, as well as www.aseertheducateers.com. And again, like I said, man, take it seriously. Think about it. It's a great graphic novel. It was Django before Django, I think. But if you want to see the movie that was Django before Django, you'll get the movie Burned with an exclamation point at the end. Banned in Italy. It's one of these movies banned in Italy. It's all about the more. Just get it. And, yeah, with that, we say peace.